Hello and welcome back once again to After the Credits. Finally getting around to seeing something fairly new. Again, it's been out for a week or so now, but it is still in the main theater, unlike the last two that I reviewed. So it is still fairly new. Hopefully people are still talking about it. But today I got around to seeing Moana, or as some of you people overseas might know it as Oceana. Because apparently overseas there is a very popular adult film actress named Moana, and there was some confusion there with parents not wanting to let their kids see the movie, so it was retitled Oceana overseas. But yeah, here in the States and a lot of other places it's called Moana. So what did I think of Moana overall? Well, it falls into that same formula that Disney tends to use now. Although they are starting to let their princesses be more of a positive female figure instead of always the damsel in distress or the princess that gets rescued by the prince. They're actually letting more of them be strong, independent women now, stand on their own, be the main focus of the movie, the main hero of the movie, which I do like. But at the same time, they still follow a lot of their old tropes that they've been using and now stick to. So it does have that downfall, but that's not a huge downfall. If you like Disney films, it's right up there with the rest of them. So what is the main story of Moana? Well, it goes way back to like the beginning of time. And we start with this like mother spirit who is essentially an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And she creates basically all life on the planet. Then we're introduced to the demigod Maui. He's kind of like a Hercules type. He goes around accomplishing all these great feats, like creating islands with his fish hook. He like throws it down, pulls up a giant island out of the ocean, and people get to live there, and other amazing feats like that. So he's beloved by everyone. And basically, he decides that he wants to give humanity the ability to create life the same way that the island spirit lady did. So Maui learns that her power comes from her heart, which is this little stone in her chest, and he goes to her while she's asleep and basically takes the stone out of her chest and leaves to give it to humanity so everyone in the world will have the power over life and death and creation and everything else. So it's kind of like that whole Prometheus taking fire from the gods and giving it to man type of story, except a Polynesian version. So as he's on his way back to give the stone to humanity, he's intercepted by a god or demon of fire and earth, as opposed to the other one who was of water and whatever. And basically this fire demon, or fire god or whatever, fights Maui to try to get control of the stone for himself, and Maui's defeated and cast away. So then we cut forward in time to Moana. So Moana's a little baby at first, adorable little baby living on an island. Her people, even though they're Polynesians, and Polynesians are known for being sailors and journeying to new places and things on their boats, her tribe stays on their island. They never go out past the reef, which most islands are surrounded by some type of a reef. That's why you got calm water, and then once you go over the reef is where you got the huge waves and everything. So they never extend beyond the reef, so they always stay on the island. They go out on little boats to fish in the shallows, just so they can feed themselves, but that's about their extent of travel. But Moana, since she's a little baby, has been drawn to the ocean. Every time she tries to go out onto the ocean, either go swimming or get on a boat and just kind of float around or whatever, her dad's always there to grab her and stop her. So he's always trying to prevent her from going into the ocean. Of course, she's the daughter of the chief, so she is a princess. We get to see her growing up through the years and her father trying to keep her focused on becoming the next chief of the village and not given to this fantasy of going out into the ocean. You know, her people need her there and whatever. So jumping back to the Maui story for a second, when Maui was defeated by the fire demon or whatever he was, it spread a darkness over the land that engulfed all the living things and basically is killing off island by island across the world. And Moana's people have always felt that they were safe on their island, except the chief's mother, the grandmother figure, has always known that eventually it would come, even though people like to think it won't. And then as Moana gets older into her teenage years and she's about to become the new chief, there's like blight and everything on the island. Like the coconut crops are, when they crack open the coconuts, it's all black inside. And they're constantly moving their crops around because things are starting to fail. And finally Moana's like, look, we gotta leave the island. And her father still says no because he's still technically the chief. And Moana finally, on the night that, spoilers, her grandmother passes away, her grandmother says, go be who you're meant to be, basically. So Moana, against her father's wishes, goes and steals a boat, sails out past the reef, and she's on an adventure now to find Maui and restore the stone heart to the island goddess. So eventually she meets up with Maui, and, he's kind of reluctant to help her at first, and then he's like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it on my own. I don't need you tagging along. You're just going to get in the way. And, of course, she finds ways to constantly be right at his side, being not really a hindrance to him, but being an annoyance to him, where he'd rather do it on his own. She's like, look, I'm here. You're going to have to deal with me. So eventually they go to find Maui's fish hook, because that was the source of his power. Because he is just a demigod. His power was bestowed to him by the gods, which all channels through his fish hook. So they go and retrieve the fish hook, and then they gotta make their way to the island. They get close to the island, but the outer reef is guarded by the fire demon. So they gotta try and figure out a way past him, and they fail a couple times, and then eventually they make it to the island. I'm not gonna tell you what happens from there out, because that would be a major spoiler for the film, but they do make it to the island. And, of course, it's a Disney film, so happy ending. Figure it out for yourself. And that's basically the movie. Overall, like I said, it's a standard Disney adventure. Like I said, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I like Disney films, but certain things are predictable. Certain things are going to happen a certain way. They follow a formula. The only real difference between like this and Sleeping Beauty is the princess is the main hero of the film, as opposed to being the damsel in distress. So it's more along the lines of like Brave, or one of those newer films. They're sticking to that formula now. But overall, it's still the same old Disney formula. Another complaint I've been hearing about this film over the past couple weeks is the portrayal of Maui, and how he kind of portrays this bumbling buffoon, which is playing into old stereotypes of the Polynesian people. How they're just these big fat dunces who are always kind of bumbling through things. And I didn't really get that from the Maui character. I don't know where that was coming from. But when I look at Maui, the way his character plays out is, again, like I said, more like Hercules. He's a demigod. He has power. He's beloved by everyone. And he got a little egotistical over the last 1,000 years of being worshipped. It's not that he's bumbling, it's that he's blinded to things around him. He doesn't comprehend certain things in the world because he's always been admired. And even Moana kind of points that out to him at one point. She's like, you're so used to everyone cheering you, you don't realize people haven't been cheering you for years. And that kind of hits him real hard, and he's like, you mean I'm not loved anymore? And she goes, no, not since you caused all this heartache. People have kind of turned on you. But because he's been exiled to this island for so long, he doesn't know that. He's still thinking, I'm admired. And he gets to the point where he wants to be admired again, so that's when he finally decides to help Moana, is to restore his good name. So I don't see where he's this bumbling Polynesian stereotype that everyone is saying that he is. He's a demigod. He's oblivious to the world around him because he's been put up on this pedestal for so long. It's hard for him to see what's below that pedestal, even though he's now beneath that pedestal. He's still looking down like, I don't see anything wrong, when he should be looking up because everything's surpassed him now. So, yeah, I don't see him being bumbling and all that negativity that I've been hearing people saying. I see him as being the demigod character. Look at movies like Hercules. He was kind of the same way. Yeah, he was idolized for so long, he kind of got full of himself and he had to be humble. That's basically where Maui's character was in this. So for everyone getting so uptight about, he's this negative stereotype of Polynesians and all this, relax. He's a demigod. Think of it like Thor from the Avengers. He's essentially a god himself, so when he comes to Earth, he doesn't understand basic things. Yes, he has all this power, but at the same time, he seems a little bumbling too because he's learning. He hasn't been on the Earth realm enough to really know certain things. By the time Avengers 2 comes around and he's interacted with Earth a lot more, he's more in tune to things around him, and he's not quite as bumbling, but he still has his foreign ways. He still is an Asgardian at heart. So certain things still don't make sense to him, even though he's come to understand the Earth now. That's what the Maui character is. It's not a negative stereotype saying all Polynesians are these fat, bumbling idiots type of thing that I've been reading on Facebook of everyone saying about this movie. He is an outsider looking in and trying to understand what's changed. basically just like as you get older and things aren't the same way they were when you were younger, you're like, what happened? Things used to be so good when I was younger, and now we have this mess, and I just don't get it. He's like that. It's not that he's stuck in old ways, it's that he just doesn't comprehend that the world has moved on without him. So that's my view on that whole standpoint. Now, overall, what would I give the film as far as a star rating? Like I said, I liked it, but it's the same Disney formula, so I guess kind of middle of the road-ish, but it was a good story. Like I said, I like that they're giving the female leads more empowerment now and making them the heroes of the films instead of the damsel in distresses of the films. So I like it a little bit more for that, but at the same time, like I said, it follows a Disney formula, so I can't bump it up too much above middle of the road for that. So it's kind of a middle of the road, but I liked it because it was just different enough to keep it interesting, and it teaches you about a different culture and their beliefs. So it gets a little bit of a bump for that. So from that aspect, I'm going to give it a 3.5. I can't really justify bumping it up to a 4 because, like I said, it's just kind of the same old Disney stuff. But the slight changes and introducing new cultures into their films now, I do like, so it gets a bump from that. So 3.5, and that's it. Nothing else to say about this one other than that. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Links are down there in the description. Click the bell up there. Make sure you get notifications when I post these new videos. And until next time, we'll see you after the credits.